Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Doing Bart Things. And it has been a minute. I apologize. It has been a crazy number of, honestly, months now since I have actually posted anything. And that just has a lot to do with the fact that I've been unbelievably busy. Things have been crazy in life. Um, and there's also been sort of a drought of what I would consider news, like things to really do. And I sort of just didn't have I don't know, the inclination to really make videos on stuff. Mainly because I would say there's not a lot of games out there really to build gaming machines for that like I'm into. So I just sort of try to concentrate on other things in life, so to speak, than building PCs. But finally, I thought about it. I had a little time today, and I thought I would just make a video on briefly two cases. I am a case nerd a little bit, and it tickles my fancy when new cases get released, new enclosures that allow things to be put sort of like it's nerd Tetris. Okay, it's how cases are put stuff together and organize their airflow and everything. Um, what we see in the enclosure market right now is it's a big sort of copycat thing. Everything is, right? Like you see someone have success with the thing, you go, cool. If you can, you try to implement that thing yourself. And you can't really copyright how someone organizes componentry inside of an enclosure. Like that's you can sort of like decide that certain features are IP, a physical thing, but you can't really say like, oh, if someone chooses to put the power supply in the front of the case, for example, that's not really, you can't say, well, I'm going to copyright, like that's not how that works. Recently, Lee and Lee released the Lee and Lee 207 Land Cool 207, and it was a great case. I actually built my uncle his machine like a year ago now, maybe, or not even that long. I think he got upgraded. I built him an entire machine inside of that case, and it was a pleasure to work in. Remarkably compact, but just all the airflow, and it looks and works great. So I thought that was awesome, and it had this deal where it relocated the PSU from kind of the back underneath the PSU shroud, right, up to the front, and turned it sideways to where all of the ports for the PSU were actually sticking towards the back panel for your modular PSUs or cables. If it's not modular, right, they're sticking out towards the rear panel, which creates a area on the PSU shroud where there's no interference if you put fans there. And that's exactly what Lee and Lee did. And that case is extremely good at cooling GPUs and the whole system. So that was pretty slick. And Okinos, which is a company that's been around for a little bit, um, they do, I don't know. I think they do other stuff like they're not just a computer brand, but they have done some computer cases, and they have actually um, uh, made their own design that does the same thing. So you can see here where the fans are in the bottom there, and there's no power supply there, right? So it does a couple things. One, they can move the motherboard lower in the chassis, which means the overall height of the case can come down. Um, and they still can fit a 360 millimeter rad in the top. It means that the fans don't have any impedance from a power supply that would be there, because you can see where it's actually up in the front here, the power supply, right? That little bracket right there, that's where the power supply goes. Um, and it's really I like the design. For just a normal case that you're going to use, it's very efficient. It allows for unimpeded airflow into your GPU from fans. Um, it's a good design. Like it was a good design when Lee and Lee did it. That doesn't mean it's not a good design here. I would question. I don't know if their build quality is the same as Lee and Lee. That would be a question I would have about this brand potentially. But I mean, for $79, the features here included, yeah, I'm digging it. I'm digging it. And it looks like one thing that they did that's a little bit different than Lee and Lee is they actually made this channel for your cabling. So it could be that they solved the problem that Lee and Lee had a little bit with that 207, which is if you have a lot of cable to deal with behind the motherboard tray, that could be a problem. It looks like maybe they've come up with some solution there by pushing the PSU pretty far in and then making a channel there where when the cables come up, you can fold those cables up and away, um, and have access to your grommets there to get to the motherboard side. So not bad. Like it looks good. $79. $79. Hit the $5 5% coupon. Bob's your uncle. It looks like. So not bad. And if you like the wood accents, which I do, um, there you go. About the only thing I would say that I would like to see different about this case, just again, internet shopping it, right? Is I know that the front I/O ports are on the top right, um, kind of up above here. I don't know if you can see. There you go. You can sort of see it. So they're up on the top there. I really want one of these cases that has the front I/O coming out, like on the bottom here somewhere, um, because or have the option, right? That's something I liked about the Lee and Lee 217 is it lets you relocate the front I/O to the side bottom. And some of the Lee and Lee cases, Corsair actually picked up on this. They put their ports on the front bottom. Um, but I like having the option of that because if you put it on your desk, fumbling around trying to get to the top for your power switch and all that stuff is uh, can be annoying. So other than that, really cool. Now I want to go into another case, and this is kind of like your budget. Like it's nice, but it's built to a price, right? And I'm going to go to a totally different end of the spectrum case that I think I've seen some reviews on. I've followed it, and if you're just looking for performance wise, probably the best, as well as the most what I would call understated look, you have the HAVN BF 360 Flow or 360. I love this case. All right. Now, here's what I like about it. HAVN really went to the drawing board and said, how can we move air in and out of this enclosure um, in such a way, it's still a brute force approach, right? Because you're just using fans, there's no ducting or anything. But how can we really compete for that airflow crown, right? Like how can we get a case that's a normal case, right? But it can really move the air. And what they did is they developed their own fans in a very open, free-flowing chassis. And these fans are 180 millimeter fans, and they are like 40 millimeter thick. That's very chonky fans, right? What this allows it to do is to spin at pretty low RPM and push a ton of air. So these fans go anywhere from about, I think, 600 to 1200 RPM is about the max. And at that 1200 RPM, they flow something like over 160 CFM. So they move a lot of air. And this case has a channel in the bottom that they developed, they actually did some testing, and they figured out that the which it makes sense, right? So they figured out that the wider channel that has just the whole floor going up is the better option instead of a narrower channel. And I think that's because, when fans spin, right, and they blow air, they kind of blow air like this, like um, it's sort of a cone out. It's not really just a jet stream, right? There's air coming out straight. There's air coming out to the sides. It's like a cone in 3 dimensions. So to channel that, they made this channel that way. It guides it right up into the GPU from that bottom fan. And they sort of played around with it, and they found that they like that option the best. So they've done little things to try and get that extra degree here and there. And from the testing, Gamers Nexus, I think Gamers Nexus did. Am I wrong? I know they did. They had a special on it. I'm not sure if they've done a review of this yet, but some other sources and channels that I'm aware of did do some testing and found it to be very effective. So it comes with the $200 version does come with those two fans and a rear exhaust fan, I believe, and you can fit a 360 in the roof. The interesting thing is you can also fit two more of these 180 millimeters in the roof. So you could go 5 fans, 480 millimeter fans. And the way they recommend doing it is the front 180 millimeter up in the top in the intake, and then the rear exhaust. And they sit next to each other. Why I think that probably works pretty well is because if you look at this top panel, it is very open. There's a filter there, but it is very open. There's nothing that is going to ideally impede and cause recirculation, because that's what I would worry about with two fans next to each other, one pushing out of the case and one pulling into the case. I would be worried about air doing this, right? But I don't think that's going to happen here because that panel is very open. So there's nothing to catch it and stop the air for a second to then get caught, hot air, right? And circulate back in the case. Really clever design. Really clever design. They thought about recirculation because you can see the blackout, I say blackout panel, the blockout panel. So they were pretty slick when they thought about this case, and I like the look of it. But I'm more of an understated look kind of guy anyway. I was looking at this and I was in my head going, you know who should have done a case like this? Whatever happened to Silverstone? Like, they had the cases back in the day with the 180 millimeter fans, and they had great 180 millimeter fans. They were the Silverstone penetrators, and they could have done this. Like, they could have made a case like this, but no, all their designs were always a little bit like wonky. They had the Fortress series, and they had the Raven series. Was it the Raven? I think it was a Raven series. And they cooled incredibly well back in the day. They were inverted cases, so at least the Raven, the Raven 02, the Fortress, and the Fortress 02 were turned, like they were horizontal mount to where the motherboard's I/O went out the top, and the fans were in the bottom. The Fortress 03 and I think the Raven 03 were not. They had like this weird front. This is what they should have done, right? If they would have done this, they would still be doing those cases regularly. Like, I don't know why they wouldn't have just made a regular case and designed it this way. This is exactly what you want from a high airflow case. Is very unimpeded panels. You want good fans, which these were developed specifically for this case, in use case, and you want clear unobstruction to the components, as well as any sort of little advantage you can get, like channeling, that kind of thing, to keep all the air where it's supposed to go. In addition to that, my old soul appreciates the non crazy styling, right? So I don't know, something to maybe take a look at if you're looking for that upper end case that just has all the airflow, and maybe you're not looking at some of the other brands that are around. As I understand it from the reviews, the build quality here is excellent. The thought to detail is excellent, and the performance is also excellent. So this is all around a really good case. Obviously, they charge you for it. If you wanted to get two more of those 180 millimeter fans, I think you can on Amazon here, but they're another $50. So you'd be out of pocket like $250 to get the what I would call probably one of the best, maybe the best air cooling situation you could get your hands on today. So it's a lot of money to spend, and then to put like if you were to buy those other fans, you'd obviously want to use an air cooler. So it's a lot of money to spend to do an air cooling setup, but I'm like, that's kind of like the ultimate air cooling setup. So anyway, if you're into that sort of thing, there you go. All right, well, listen, that's it. Appreciate you guys letting me, just sort of, talk about that. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video and maybe have a couple of ideas if you're looking to build towards the end of this year, maybe a holiday, present or something. Some a little bit lesser known brands, they're coming out with some pretty neat enclosures. Maybe save you a buck, or maybe you get the ultimate air cooled situation here, perhaps. Hopefully that helps. Anyway, take it easy, and you guys have a great weekend, and we'll see you in the next one.